Hello, everybody. I am Zenith Rule, and welcome back to Diving Into DuckTales, where Kat Macberrie, Doug McManor, and I discuss each individual episode of the new DuckTales series. There's been a bit of a break. I apologize. I was sick. I blame Jay because, during our last recording, we mentioned that during Memorial Day weekend, I was going to visit the debate crew. That's what we ended up doing, and I went down for the long weekend, and we had a fun time. But the moment I got back home on Monday, I had a sore throat, and I had a fever by Thursday, so I was sick. And I had to rest my voice, and then I got a cold afterwards, and I still have a little bit of it, but I am well enough now to record this thing. I apologize. Thank you, the regular viewers, for bearing with us, because I know there's quite a few people, the Cartoon Queen 21 especially, just really love our talk about DuckTales and have been waiting for our thoughts. So we apologize for the delay. This was my fault, but I blame Jay because he got me sick. How's it going, Kat?
Thank the Disney Channel for giving us a break in between for you to recover. That was some good timing on their part.
That was very good timing. I would not have been able to keep up. Also, Doug, how's it going?
Happy birthday! Birthday! Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know where that came from. Glad you're feeling better.
Before we actually dive in, yeah, I'm glad I'm feeling better too. Before we talk about the episode itself, we should mention Kat showed me that the Disney Channel actually did a live reading with the voice cast for this episode, and we watched this in addition to the episode. You should go check it out. So if you look, there's I'll put the link in the description, but basically they get all the cast members except for a couple of the extended cast to act everything out live, and they bring on a real guitar. It's really amazing. But yeah, so today we're talking about McMystery at McDuck McManor, which is an amazing title. Dear God, when I first saw that, I'm just that's ridiculous. Kat, do you want to give us a brief summary of McMystery at McDuck McManor, McPlease?
McCertainly. Alright, so McMystery at McDuck McManor is actually probably one of the simplest plots and rather cliche one, but it's still fun nonetheless. Basically, half the people in the mansion are getting ready to leave because it is apparently Scrooge's birthday, and he does not like his birthdays. He does not like parties whatsoever. Unfortunately, once Huey hears about it, he automatically goes into party mode, because, he's one of those people where if you say, hey, I don't want to party, they, of course, think that, oh, well, they definitely want to party. So Huey throws together this big shindig with all these masked guests, forces Scrooge to have fun, which, of course, he doesn't. And he even invites along a magician who forcibly makes Scrooge part of his act by making him disappear. Except in this case, he actually does make him disappear. And now it's a whole big mystery as to who took Scrooge and who in the room is the real culprit and what is the motive. And of course, we also have a guest. Actually, not so much a guest, but rather a familiar face who, from the original, who makes his reappearance back in this. And honestly, I did not really see this coming. I heard rumors, but once we see him, oh man, this is what it makes it interesting. So.
Oh yeah. If I had to say the draw of this episode, it's the fact that you cannot predict what's going to happen next, because it starts off as a simple locked room mystery, and they play it out pretty much like a murder mystery would, say Murder on the Orient Express, and you go through all the logical things of, it has to be this person, it has to be this person, it has to be this person, and then there's 3 twists, near the end, and I'm just okay, dear God, this episode had me, through a loop, because I didn't know what was going to happen next. The biggest thing, though, is the main crux is around the party itself and how lame the party is. But the guests end up being like all of Scrooge's like arch nemesis, which is like, okay. Like, I don't know why you would invite arch
1
nemesis to a
hour.
party.
Hours. You gave me 1 hour to prepare.
Yeah, like he had 1 hour to prepare, so he invites the arch nemesis, and like you can pretty much like pick out who each one is, but they're all in disguise. So it's just like at first you're like, wait a second, the guy who's a stage magician is a Beagle Boy. What that means, yeah, Ma Beagle is there in disguise. And they also point out that Mark Beaks is also in disguise, but he's pretty easy to spot. But the easiest one to spot, and that I got from the very early point of the episode, because I love this character to death, is Glomgold. And Glomgold, once again, makes this episode fantastic. Oh my god.
How did you know it was me?
It's always you.
And it always will be!
I love that, like, he hides his beard underneath, like, the collar of his shirt, and he just, like, squeezes out of it. Like, we've seen him take off his beard as a disguise before, so we know it's detachable, but instead of, like, just taking it off, he just squeezes it into the collar. Dear God.
Yeah, having all the villains, like, here at once definitely was a treat. That really didn't happen that much in the old DuckTales, at least not to my knowledge. Like, you'd occasionally get, like, 1 or 2 villains teaming up, like having Glomgold hire the Beagle Boys to do his bidding, or something like that. Or usually it was, like, one of the main ones teaming up with, like, a villain of the week or something. But this is, like, the first time you had, like, the 3 big baddies all together. And the best part is that they really have nothing to do with what's going on in the episode. They're just there, like, being themselves.
For the most part, yeah, like there is a small connection, but for the most part, like, they are trying to kill Scrooge or trying to steal his money. Like, basically the Beagle Boys' plan with Ma Beagle is to steal his money with the magic trick. And the funny thing is, Black Arts Beagle, the one who's the magician, explains everything. And the whole time Ma Beagle's just like, stop explaining the plan. Why you explain the plan? He just keeps going.
I know, he's like, so he has me right in his clutches, so what does he do? He starts monologuing, talking about how feeble I am and how inevitable my defeat is. I just love
You
that
caught me monologuing again.
One interesting thing we did learn in regards to Ma Beagle and why she was there is that not only did she want to steal from Scrooge, she particularly wanted to steal back the deed to the town. Because apparently Scrooge managed to con her great-grandfather out of the deed to the town, which he stole back in the day. Which means that Scrooge technically owns Duckburg, which I find rather interesting. I don't think that was, like, the case in the original, but
it makes sense.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. Like, the fact that he gave the lease back to the town for a small profit, you know, that's pretty smart. But now it, like, gives the Beagles more of a concrete reason as to why they hate Scrooge so much. Because before it was just, they were just petty thieves who saw Scrooge as, like, a big target to steal from. In this case, it's like they have a legit grudge against him and a reason for wanting to always break into the mansion. So I kind of like that.
I do like that world building a bit, and I like how, like, it really, like, it starts off pretty much as you're expecting the Beagle Boys to be the ones behind it, because they make the most sense out of all the guests. Out of the 3, like, villains present here, I think they're the most successful in terms of this series. So, like, I half expected them to kind of be the ones behind it all, and we go through this whole rigmarole, like, where they accuse Ma Beagle, and they explain the plan, but it's not them. Which, like, I like it. Like, the story really unfolds bit by bit, much like a Poirot detective novel, and I really like that. Doug, before we move on to Mark Beaks, what are your thoughts on the Beagles?
Yeah, I mean, well, I was especially, I had already kind of figured out that Ma Beagle was there, but Nick Nocturne being a Beagle Boy was a good twist. I did not see that coming.
Me either.
Yeah, no, and it's like, I guess it makes sense ultimately, but it's like, wow, did not see that coming at all.
Yeah, like it works as a reveal because we obviously know what Ma Beagle looks like, and we thought we knew all the Beagle Boys from the Beagle Birthday Massacre, but he could have just been there in the crowd and we didn't know it. And it's a common design. I really like this.
I feel like that all the Beagles we saw in that episode was just a fraction of Ma Beagle's kids. Like, she probably has, like, hundreds of kids, like, all over the country. We'll probably see newer ones in the future as well.
Man, Ma gets around.
True that. Seriously, if you look at the original one, she actually, like, launches a full-on attack on Scrooge's money bin. And yeah, like, you see like hundreds of Beagle Boys, all of who look alike, and I'm like, Jesus, woman. Like, even like they even show like little Beagle Boys, like, you know, children, the boys' age, and I'm like, is she still getting around? Like, what the fuck?
Well, maybe she's in high demand. Money is sexy, you know, and she seems to have a lot of money.
That was another thing I thought was, like, weird but interesting, is the fact that the boys said that she's actually a legit businesswoman. Because I always thought she was just, you know, the head of, you know, a group of petty thieves. And in this case, they said, oh, no, she actually legitimately is a business owner, which makes me wonder, why the hell is her family stealing then? Like, if she can make her own money and has her own influence and power, then why the hell does she have to, like, you know, have her boys pull off all these elaborate schemes, like stealing armored trucks and, you know, kidnapping and everything? Like,
maybe she's like a mob boss in that sense. Like, they have legitimate business opportunities, but they operate outside of the law for stuff. Because she mentions in this episode that stealing Scrooge right from under their nose would be more trouble than he's worth.
Okay, I can see that making sense then.
Mm-hmm. So we learn a lot about the Beagles in this episode, and then we move on to the second person, Mark Beaks, which, like, they're saying, okay, so it's not the Beagles, but there's, like, the picture that, like, he disappeared away from or whatever turns out to be a security system, and only one person can hack this security system, Mark Beaks. And we go into Mark Beaks' story, his plan to get revenge. You know, the follow-up from the whole, Gizmo Duck episode that I thought was going to be really, really big. Get this. Okay, so his whole deal to get revenge was not something, like, important, like money or whatever, because he has all the money he wants. He just wanted to get an embarrassing video of Scrooge walking into an open window.
Yeah. And I just love how Ma Beagle's like, and this is one of Scrooge's biggest nemesis? And I'm like, you know what? He really isn't.
Just more of a
like,
minor nuisance.
Yeah, honestly, compared to all of Scrooge's villains that I've seen both in the old and the new one, like, Mark Beaks really isn't anybody threatening, at least to him. Because think about it, the other two times we've seen Mark Beaks, the first time he was just trying to, you know, hype up everything, like, his project, the Project Tada, just so he can finally rake in his first $1 million. And then the second time we see him, he legally obtains, like, the blueprints to Bulb Tech and recreates it for his own purpose to get more money. So really, he doesn't have any legit reason to, like, not like Scrooge or to, like, seek out revenge for him, because he really hasn't. He's just kind of an opportunist, and his whole reason for being there is just, you know, basically to live stream the party and just, again, like you said, get footage of Scrooge making a fool of himself just to drive up hype for his social media, like, outlets. And I'm like, wow, this like, this is one of the big baddies, huh? Well, I guess it could be worse.
I mean, in terms of the show, like, we don't have a lot of recurring villains yet. Obviously, we have the Beagles, we have Mark Beaks, and Glomgold, but we don't have a lot of recurring villains. But what I like about Mark Beaks is just that he's so bumbling and incompetent. He's funny to watch, and I love how immediately after he gets it, he starts celebrating, and he turns and walks into the door. He's like, oh, wait, nobody got that on camera, right? Oh, God, I'm ruined.
I mean, in hindsight, it's probably a good thing we have a villain like this. You know, someone who's more of a nuisance rather than an actual threat. Because, like with the Beagles, you know, they're always trying to break in and steal Scrooge's stuff. But of course, we know they're not above, you know, hurting Scrooge or his family. We know that Glomgold wants to kill Scrooge. And then, of course, you know, there's Magica, who we don't know her motives yet, but we're pretty certain she wants Scrooge dead as well. So having someone like Mark Beeks just be there just to, you know, be bumbling and funny and just, you know, all full of himself is kind of refreshing when you think about it.
It is a breath of fresh air, especially because they could have used Magica, but, like, the mystery is killing me right now, and they know just how to dangle it in front of my face, because apparently one of the episodes coming up soon is going to involve Magica, and I'm just like, yeah, they didn't have her in this episode because next episode. But Doug, what do you think of the Beaks?
Yeah, so I mean, I think ultimately his whole thing is that he's upset with Scrooge and Glomgold for snubbing him at the Millionaires Club. So I guess that's really his motive. I don't know if this episode necessarily does take place after the Gizmo Duck episode or not, because I'm like, you know, we had the whole thing about the production order of the episodes, so it could be that this actually happened, you know, before Gizmo Duck. But yeah, I mean, honestly, yeah, he's minor. He doesn't really have much to hate on Scrooge for. So maybe he hates Glomgold because he, you know, gave him that yacht buffet and then the sharks and the lava. You know,
Keep in mind,
sharks.
Keep in mind, we don't know if that plan actually progressed to that point or not, or if it even, like, you know, played out at all, because it is a Glomgold plan.
Oh, God.
But, yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised if the boat sank before Mark Beeks even set foot on it.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, he's ultimately just a minor nuisance. But I do want to also point out, in case anybody missed it, when they right before they reveal Mark Beeks, they pull out, you know, they show that there's a safe behind the picture of Scrooge and his former butler, who we actually kind of do need to talk about a little bit. But what you call it? When they reveal the safe, it's a DT-87. Think about that. DT-87.
Oh.
Ha ha ha.
Mm-hmm.
Clever dog.
Yep.
Clever girl.
Because, of course, all the Easter eggs.
Yep.
Nice Easter eggs. So let's talk about Glomgold next, because, you know, Mark Beeks didn't do it, the Beagles didn't do it. So Glomgold turns up, and he's like, it always will be. I love that. Like, he's just, it wasn't even him, but he still eats it up. Like, the entire thing. I just love, he's like, well, I knew this was going to be my chance to take out Scrooge, so I started coming up with some plans. I didn't have a lot of time, and it shows him, like, getting bitten by scorpions, like, trying to put scorpions as a present and getting, like, defeated. Like, all of his plans are foiled, like, right before our very eyes, and it is so damn glorious.
Yeah, no, he is, like, so self-foiling, it is, like, it is amazing.
I mean, you say Mark Beeks is inept, but Glomgold has it down to a science.
But at least he's villainous. Like, the thing I love about Glomgold is he's inept and he's egotistical, but he's charming, and you can see him being the main villain. And it's just like, I love what they do with him in this episode. And they show all the different stuff that he goes through. And he just says, oh, I just, you know, picked up a bomb, put it as a present.
Classic
And
Glomgold.
the bomb and the bomb explodes behind him. He's like,
Not my best
it's
work."
not some of me best work. Glomgold makes this episode for me.
Well, he's always a highlight no matter what episode he's in.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, we should probably get to, like, the main core of what drives this episode, which arguably isn't the most entertaining, but, you know, it's there and it has to be addressed, because that's ultimately what leads to the twist ending. Like, the whole drive behind all this is that Huey is apparently desperate to prove that he's a good party planner, and he believes that if he can get Scrooge to enjoy the party, it will acknowledge that he is not only the best party planner ever, but he's actually better than Scrooge's old old servant Duckworth, who had passed away before that point, who apparently was the only person that Scrooge actually trusted to, with his birthday parties. And even the villains acknowledge at one point that they, too, missed Duckworth, and that not only did he throw great parties, but there was no way in hell he would ever allow people like them to get past the doors. Which makes me wonder, was he also a bodyguard or something, the same way Beagle is? Because that would be pretty awesome.
I wonder about that, but, the funny thing is that it's not just them planning the party. Throughout the entire episode, you have Huey, who's trying to prove himself, basically prove that he's the best party planner. You have Dewey as DJ Daft Duck. He's only responding to that.
Happy birthday!
I just want to say real quick, I love how in the live reading they had his voice actor do his lines completely by guitar recordings. That was amazing.
Oh,
yeah, it was great. Oh, no. And then we have Louie, who is surprisingly the voice of reason, even though he's normally the con man. That might have been what threw me off, because I'm looking at it, I'm like, wait a second, DJ Daft Duck seems more fitting for Louie, but I mean, I don't know. So they do have defined roles for Louie, Huey, Dewey, and Louie here, but they tend to switch around a little bit from episode to episode, which is what's throwing me off the last two episodes.
I feel this was actually appropriate. Mm-hmm. I mean, I feel that the whole thing was appropriate. I thought it was a bit weird for Dewey to be, the DJ and not speak the whole time. But with Louie, I think the only way the premise with the villains could have worked is if Louie was the one who did the invitations. Because, of course, with only an hour to do everything, he naturally cut corners and did not give a shit who he invited as long as they said yes. So
1 hour!
All right, that's it. Next time you're doing the guest list.
But yeah, so yeah, I was kind of annoyed by Huey in this because, again, I don't like people like that who insist on having parties for people that don't want it. And granted, I've kind of been that person at points. I've had friends who say they don't want birthday presents, they don't want to acknowledge certain days, and, I'll still try to do a little something because, I'd feel bad if I didn't acknowledge it. But ultimately, you have to respect the person's, preference, because some people just aren't like that. They don't enjoy those things. If anything, it makes them mad. So seeing Huey he's not even doing this for Scrooge's happiness. He's doing this more out of his own self pride and just to show up someone who's dead. So yeah, it was kind of annoying, especially when we got to a point where he realized that they had villains in their house and there was a spooky creature going about and that people could possibly die, and he's still gung-ho about pulling off the perfect party. I'm like, dude, priorities. Come on. You're supposed to be the smart one here.
Yeah, he was kind of annoying in this episode, especially when he tried to be the world's greatest detective in order to please Scrooge. I like him playing detective, but again, it's all for this selfish reason of just, oh, hey, I'm going to be, I'm going to have his attention and affection. No, just quit while you're behind. But DJ Daft Duck was awesome.
Of course.
Say what?
You can't get that helmet. You can't get that helmet off, can you?
Oh no.
That's a role that could have gotten annoying very fast, but they didn't overutilize it, and I like that. And I love during the live reading, he's just like, oh, I have 16 different keys on this. I've only used 3.
And at one point, I think they started to turn his volume down. He's like, don't you dare turn me down.
Don't you turn my volume down. What you doing? and David Tennant, who voices Scrooge, had to play Glomgold as well, and he did it bad on purpose.
Well, I can just It's just so funny because David Tennant naturally has a thick Scottish accent, and he had to go even thicker for Glomgold. It was just so funny.
with an authentic Scottish accent. Oh God.
So yeah, we should we should probably get to the big twist of this episode.
Well, one of them, because there's a few. Okay, so
Sure.
the first twist was who actually was behind it. They go one by one down the line because they can't figure out who did it. So it's just like, oh, so it's Ma Beagle. No. And then
again.
a note shows up. Try again. No, it's Mark Beeks.
Try again.
Disappears. Note saying try again. And it's like, okay, so it's Glomgold. Try again. And they're like, wait a second. The only person left is Nick Nocturne. And he's like, right, it was me all along. So he planned to use his dark arts to summon a demon to prove to Mom that his magic lessons weren't a waste of time, going against his mom's plan completely. And it turns out that he actually did summon a ghost, which chases them down the hall and tries to murder them. And I'm like, what? This is a different twist. The thing is, though, Nick Nocturne can't control it for some reason. So he gets, like, kicked out of the manor. And so now the ducks are just, like, running away. And they're like, wait a second, what is going on? What could possibly have done this? Well, second twist, the real person behind all of this is Scrooge McDuck. Because, third twist, the ghost that Nick Nocturne summoned was the ghost of the butler, Duckworth. Oh my God, like, this episode had me going with, like, because I had, like, they just said, okay, well, it's not this guy, it's not this guy. Like, it's really well thought out. And here's the thing, with a Poirot mystery, oftentimes the reveal comes out of nowhere, and sometimes it feels like it's something that you couldn't have predicted, which makes it feel a little bit cheap sometimes. This is something that they actually allude to because they bring up the whole Duckworth painting, and it's the only person that would have gotten Scrooge out with the birthday party, like, and the only ghost that would have been in the manor. Like, everything leads up to this point. It's so well telegraphed. Like, kudos.
Yeah, definitely. Like, granted, I kind of figured it would wind up being Duckworth, since, you know, this is the first episode he's actually mentioned by name and reference. So it's like, okay, well, he's definitely gonna come up again at some point. But I didn't expect it, like, the guy they suspected from, like, the get-go, the magician, to actually have been the one to orchestrate the plan. But that plan ends up backfiring, and then you get a legit fucking demon who actually turns out to be the butler. So that was a nice twist on a twist. So, and the funny thing is, like, the demon is actually really familiar for a reason, and that's because it's the same demon they show in the opening to the show, which alludes to the fact that when the show first started and the cast and crew were answering questions, somebody asked the head writer, you know, is Duckworth going to show up? And he said, oh, well, he's shown up already in the opening. Naturally, this confused a lot of people, because, you know, you go back and forth, you see the characters we know, you see the monsters and stuff, you're like, where is he? We don't get it. He was right fucking there the whole time! Like, wow.
That is really cool. Like, this is really well done. I really have to say, like, I'm impressed with the way they handled this episode. 4 episodes in a row that I think were fantastic. But anyway, Doug, go on. What do you think of the twists?
Well, I was surprised, but I wasn't, because I kind of had the Duckworth reveal spoiled for me, in that I knew he was going to be in the episode, because they mentioned on Wikipedia when they first started, like, showing the episode titles and everything, they mentioned that Duckworth was going to be in it, and he was going to be voiced by David Kaye, a.k.a. Megatron from Beast Wars.
Yes.
It's just you and me, Megatron.
Yes.
So I was freaking fanboying out at that point.
Yeah,
it was just like a matter of, I knew they were gonna bring him in. It was just a matter of when.
Yeah, so apparently Duckworth is a ghost now, and he's back from the dead. per se. So.
And he's a regular cast member now. Like, they state, like, you brought back my favorite butler. Like, this is the best birthday ever. Like, that was an Irish accent, not Scottish. I'm sorry. But, yeah, like, Scrooge basically says, don't plan any more parties for me, but this has been the best birthday because you brought back Duckworth, who is not going away. And I'm just like, that's really clever. Like, they have a ghost as a main cast member in DuckTales. Like, I can't remember the last time this has been done.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to remember if they did have ghosts, because I'm pretty certain they did in certain episodes. They're just eluding me right now. But the fact that they have a ghost as a main cast member, that's pretty damn cool. And it's one that's, like, been established as well. Speaking of, like, ghosts, though, I wanted to mention something. This is a bit morbid, kind of sad, but in a way kind of cool. So, the original voice actor for Duckworth, Chuck McCann, I think I'm pronouncing that McCann, I'm not sure, sorry. He's the original voice of Duckworth. He's a voice actor, he's been, like, voice acting for a long time, like, since 1966 until recently. Well, he happened to pass away from heart failure about 2 weeks after this episode premiered outside of America, which was about a month ago. Which means that by the time the episode premiered here in America, he was already dead. So the voice of Duckworth legit was already dead by the time he became a ghost in canon. Like,
wow.
That is pretty fucking freaky. And I'm like, wow, way to be dedicated to your craft. I mean, rest in peace to the guy. I mean, he's done a lot of great work over the years, but that's a tidbit that I can't help but find a little cool.
I also find it funny that he and Mrs. Beakley hate each other.
Yeah, that's another thing. Like, we see Beakley and Webby leave at the very beginning of the episode because they know how Scrooge gets around that day. And when they come back, like, I love how Webby comes in, she's like, hey, Duckworth. Like, she doesn't even flinch. Like, doesn't acknowledge the fact that, like, oh, he's back, and he's a ghost. Cool. And then, like, Mrs. Beakley there, and he's, like, so fucking, like, he's so fucking snobby to her. He's like, oh, Mrs. Beakley, I just arrived back to find the place in a rather disorder here. Tell me, do you always keep the place this shabby? And she just, like, glares at him and is like, I preferred it better when you were dead. I'm like,
and she
ooh,
walks right
shade.
through him.
Yeah, like, wow. Like, I don't know what happened between them, but there's some history there, and I hope we learn it.
Like, I don't remember them hating each other in the original. Like, they were both just kind of there, you know, doing their jobs. So, it should be interesting. But I guess that maybe Beakley might appreciate it more because it's less for her to do now that the family's all moved in and everything. But I'm interested to see how they incorporate him in, like, future plots, because now they have a ghost at their disposal. Like, I'm wondering if, like, if he's just bound to the house, or if he can, like, follow them outside. Like, that'll be an interesting thing to explore.
That's like, this episode works so well, but it also opens new dynamics. And that's the thing, like, the previous episodes that we've talked about so far have been great, but they haven't had an ending quite like this, where they bring back a cast member from the grave, and it opens up so many new avenues to do new things with this cast. And I can't think of, like, aside from the Magica reveal, like, that final ending, and maybe the Spear of Selene ending, I can't think of another episode that really left me feeling like they can do so much with this, and I have no idea where it's going to go. And I think this is a really good strength of the show overall. The reboot has done a great job of showing that they understand how to update everything, modernize everything. And while we did have a couple episodes like last year that I didn't really care for, the grand majority of these episodes are fantastic. They leave me wanting more. This episode is just so entertaining. It combines a lot of the humor that was in Moorshire with serious drama and character building, and we learn a lot about this cast in this episode, and I really have to hand it to the team for being able to balance everything so well, to the point where, like, it really like flowed so damn well, one point to the next, and I didn't know, like, I was just riding this roller coaster throughout the entire episode. I loved it.
There's another thing I want to point out too. Something that Duckworth might finally be able to solve for people is the fact of whether or not Della Duck is alive or dead.
Ooh.
Because think about it, they don't actually confirm that. Like, Dewey just says whenever he asks Donald about, Della, he just says that she's gone. That doesn't necessarily mean that she's dead. Like, Dewey assumes that she's dead because, she hasn't shown up at all. So, of course, Duckworth being a ghost, he can possibly, like, tell Dewey if, Dewey thinks to ask him, like, has he seen his mother? Duckworth can confirm that, I assume anyway, that ghosts tend to talk to each other and whatnot, but it would be an interesting development in the whole mystery of Della Duck. So. Yeah,
like, here's the thing, it's, like, there's a lot of things that we don't know yet. There's a lot of things we can speculate, especially from the Spear of Selene episode and past episodes with Magica and everything. But, like, again, like you said, this opens the possibility that they could ask the butler for stuff. Like, Sirius Black, the whole... When in Harry Potter, spoilers, when Sirius Black is killed, they go to a ghost first to see if they can figure out if they, like... what if Sirius came back as a ghost? Like, let's talk about that. And it's the same kind of dynamic where they can ask them to see what happened to this character, and this could help further expand the mystery now that it was kind of closed at the end of the Spear of Selene. This is a perfect way to continue things on, because we pretty much had a closed end to that mystery, and we didn't know where things were going. But now we have a lead, and I really, really can't wait for what's going on. Kat, what are your final thoughts on this episode?
This was a fun episode. Like I said, it was fairly simple, a bit cliched in a few ways, but like I said, it had some nice twists to it. I like the way that they brought back Duckworth. Granted, I didn't really care for his character too much in the original, because he was kind of just there as your typical snooty butler. He did have one cool episode, though, where he gets fired by Scrooge, and afterwards he gets abducted by aliens who underestimate him. Yes, he gets
What?
He and the boys get abducted by aliens, and the aliens underestimate him because once they realize he's a servant, they're thinking, oh, he'll be totally obedient. He ends up orchestrating a whole uprising of all the other prisoners against the aliens, and they take them down. So that is some points for Duckworth in my book. Like, granted, he doesn't do much after that, and there is a rather infuriating episode where he tries to coach a baseball team but acts like it's cricket. That was kind of weird. But for the most part, he's there, he's harmless, and seeing his new role in this as, like, sort of a ghostly butler bodyguard type, like, opens up a lot of possibilities. So I am quite excited for that.
Okay, abducted by aliens.
Yeah, I threw you for a loop with that one, huh? Yes, that is...
DuckTales is weird.
Understatement of the century.
Okay, sorry. I've seen it happen in some other shows where weird things happen, and granted, I should probably be more perceptive because this is DuckTales, where, like, mummies and monsters exist, but aliens. Okay.
Hey, they do go into space a good couple of times, so, don't count it out among the realm of possibilities this show can go to.
Yeah, I mean, in a show with a ghost butler, aliens is kind of it's a logical step, but it's sorry, I didn't expect you to say that. All right, Doug, what's your final thoughts while I collect my alien composure?
Aliens.
I'm not saying it's aliens, but it's aliens.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty much in agreement about this episode. It was a fairly standard episode, but it had a lot of laughs to it, good twist. I mean, obviously, Huey's pretty much the weakest link in this, in that, yeah, he's kind of the important one to kind of keep things going, but ultimately it's like, yeah, he's kind of annoying in this, but everybody else is so much fun. It's definitely a treat to, for them to have brought Duckburg. Wow, why am I drawing a blank? Duckburg back. Duckworth back.
Duckworth.
Because, yeah, I mean, like Kat said, he was kind of just there in the original. You kind of didn't really like him that much, and hell, like, Scrooge kind of screws him over a lot in the original series. So it's kind of weird to see that he's, like, really loyal, and this so loyal that, he'll come back from the dead to help Scrooge out. So yeah, I mean, I'm definitely interested to see what kind of possibilities they'll do if if they are indeed keeping him on board. And yeah, I mean, that's really all I can say about that. I look forward to what else we have going.
My final thoughts. Overall, I think this was a fantastic episode. I just had so much fun watching it, and that's a testament. Like, when I don't when I don't look at my watch or like think about when this is going to end, when I'm watching something for a review, that's a good episode. The entire time, my attention was glued to the screen. Like, I didn't have to, do a double-sided coin toss. I didn't have to, drag my attention away. Like, the entire time, I was loving it. I was laughing. Again, Glomgold stole the show for me, but I love that they had a bevy of villains. I love the 1 hour gag and how, like, it's like, really, Louis, like, what were you thinking? But I love the twists and turns of this episode and how it keeps you guessing. And even when you think, like, one obvious twist is going to happen, something else happens, and a third and a fourth. Like, it's a really great, enjoyable episode. Are some parts predictable? Probably. Like, I mean, granted, like, I'm not as good at predicting some of this stuff as they are, but, like, honestly, even some of the cliche stuff I thought was well handled, and while Huey is annoying, I just love this cast and the story so much. And apparently next week we're getting Magica back.
Yeah, I've been looking at the promos. The next episode is called Jaws.
With a dollar sign.
Yeah. Yeah, and apparently we get Lena comes back. From what I gather from the promo, she seems to take like a cursed gem or something from Magica and puts it in Scrooge's money bin, which causes a monster to fester and grow and try to eat all the characters. So this should be interesting. So I am wondering, like, if there's going to be a little more leeway, if they're going to, like, if this is going to be another thing where Magica works behind the scenes, or if the characters are going to start to catch on to her existence. I mean, either way, it's going to be interesting. Like, and and I definitely I know she's definitely going to speak because they said Catherine Tate is coming back for this. So, and I remember hearing in the promo Webby asking, "What's your deepest, darkest secret?" So I'm like, is she gonna say something? We shall see.
Dun, dun. I'm intrigued. I think this was a great episode. I'm looking forward to more episodes. I think there's only 3 more titles left, but I'm not entirely sure. This is the thing. A lot of shows, they'll tell you like how many episodes are in the season or like when the next episode's gonna happen. Like, we get a lot of like drip-fed information, and we only found out about the break like last minute. So I'm not sure what's gonna happen. We have titles for 3 episodes. We'll see where that goes. In any case, I am Zenith will Rule.
I'm Kat Macberrie.
I'm DJ Daft Duck. I mean, Doug Macberrie.
And we will see you next time where things get a little bit more dangerous with Aunt Magica. Thanks for watching, everybody.
DTFN, ta-ta for now.
And just remember that if you think it'll be somebody else as the actual villain of the episode, it will always ultimately be Glomgold.
It always will be!
Hey, Hey, this is Megami33. Thank you for watching Zenith Will Review. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more awesome videos. If you like what you see, check out the Patreon page at patreon.com/ZenithWillReview.